Happy holidays, Hawaii ACTE. It is the most wonderful time of the year. I'm so glad that you're here to join me. Today, we have a very special episode. We are joined by Daniel Swift from Windward Community College, who's going to show us how he incorporates culinary, science, and business to create his shortbread cookies. Anyone hungry for some cookies? Well, I hope you brought your appetite because this video starts in 3, 2, 1.
Aloha everyone, my name is Daniel Swift and I'm coming to you from Windward Community College. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little activity with you for the brainstorming session that we're all kind of going through, trying to get ideas to help us deliver content virtually to students from all ages and across the spectrum, whether it's K through 12 or community college. So we're all obviously adjusting a little bit to the delivery of all of our content, or the majority of our content, online. As you can tell, my background is culinary arts. I've spent the last 20 years in culinary and hospitality education, and my entire adult life in the industry. So for us in this field, we had to come up with creative ways to hybridize and or deliver most of our content strictly online. So I appreciate, again, the opportunity to share a couple ideas. Hopefully it'll be something that you can utilize in your classes or modify to utilize in some way, shape, or form. If you do have questions, feel free to email me once this is done and posted. I'm at Windward Community College and my email address is danswift@hawaii.edu. Happy to field any questions or try to assist you as you put together specific lessons for your particular course. So what you'll find from today's lesson are a couple of things. I'm sure it'll get edited. I'm not exactly sure the process to get them posted online. I'm strictly doing this via Zoom and recording it, and then I'll upload it and send it off to the folks over at the office, and hopefully they'll be able to put it together to make something work for you. But you should also receive a recipe packet or an information packet. So what I put together here for you is the standard shortbread cookie recipe, just a basic recipe, super simple, very cost effective, and of course delicious. Everybody likes shortbread. So I have included with the quantities and the ingredients, the measurements both in imperial or standard measure and also in metric or grams. So you have the ingredients, the measurements in 2 different ways, and then the method for preparation, which I'll walk you through just so you're familiar with it. If you want to do this for your class, or I can steer you towards videos that I've recorded that just simply go through the process of creating the same recipe, but without the information related to online delivery. So aside from the recipe, I also listed, of course, the instructions and how to work through it. And then I have a list of activities that can be utilized, or perspectives, I guess I would say, for instructors across the many disciplines that we have to implement this activity into economics, into marketing, into management, obviously mathematics. There's just any discipline for the most part would work for this activity. I was thinking earlier this morning, like what disciplines might not apply, and I was trying to figure out how to maybe work it into automotive, massage therapy, I guess certain things, maybe the aromas and whatnot would be appropriate. But for the most part, I feel that culinary arts and baking and pastry arts are really suited exceptionally well to deliver learning outcomes to students in a practical way, a fun way, an easy way, one that stimulates all of the senses. Right now it smells like shortbread cookies in here because I have a batch that I baked already. So the more we can get students involved with any activity and show relevance, we all know the content tends to absorb a little bit more easily, and hopefully the retention as well will continue beyond. And that is one great takeaway for this, for teachers and students alike, whether you use this, activity for your classes, or whether you just do it at home for fun with your family or friends. It's a great, simple recipe that works really, really good across the board in a number of different varieties. And it'll be something that you'll be able to take with you and utilize for the rest of your life if you choose to do so. So let's go through really quickly just the ingredients, and then we'll go into technique, and then I'll put together, like I said, all of the information that you could then come together across your discipline with other instructors to gather the resources necessary, like pricing and what's going on with tariffs and commodity prices, et cetera, to apply it to your particular discipline. So super simple in terms of ingredients. We really have 4 key ingredients in this formula or in this recipe. It's sugar. Here I have granulated sugar. In the recipe I give you a variation for brown sugar. You could substitute as well. Regular all-purpose flour, a soft room temperature butter, and vanilla. So I am using salted butter here so that we don't have the additional ingredient of salt in there. It can be made with unsalted butter, and then you just add salt to the recipe. But just to keep it at 4 ingredients, I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So those are the ingredients that we go through. And then over here, I put some of the variations that can be utilized if you choose to get creative. And this is where you could incorporate activities in terms of marketing or developing your own product, or modifying the quantities, because your yields would change if you're adding nuts or chocolate chips or other items to the base dough that we have here. So we make about 3.5 cups of dough. And if you were to add another cup of chopped pistachios, for example, it would increase the yield, would increase the bulk of the dough and the number of cookies that would be made. It would also impact the price and all of those sorts of things. It would impact the way you market it, et cetera. The labeling you would need to include in terms of allergies for nuts and things like that. So limitless possibilities in terms of flavoring for this. So I encourage you guys to try it. Some of the variations, I gave you quantities in the recipe, but feel free to make your own as you go and experiment and play around. So we'll walk through the process now really, really quickly. And you can use a mixer for this, or you can do it by hand. I'll try it by hand. I don't really want to make too big of a mess, but a mixer is really easy. I used this earlier for a quick batch. It only takes a couple, not even a couple minutes, about a minute to mix, and it's done. So soft butter is what we want in there to start with. And then I'll usually add my sugar and my flour next. And then it's very simple. You're just stirring it. A wooden spoon, spatula, a rice paddle, anything that's sort of stiff will work great. And you're kind of just breaking up the butter and incorporating all of these ingredients together. The final ingredient of the vanilla, I'll tend to add a little bit later after things start to come together, so that it doesn't absorb into just one portion of the flour. I want to make sure that it's nice and even. So I find it, doing it by hand, you're kind of smashing it really. I'm turning my bowl while I smash the butter together. You can easily do this also by hand because I'm working with things here. I don't want to get my hands too dirty. But for kids, it's awesome. They can get in and just work it with their hands. And when you're done, the dough you'll see will be sort of like Play-Doh. So it's almost impossible to do it without having flour fly around a little bit, but that's okay. Make sure that you're in an area that you can create a little bit of a mess if you need to. And now you can see it's sort of crumbly. It's coming together like pie dough almost. And now is the point where I can add my vanilla. And in your recipe, I gave variations for other extracts. You could do lemon, orange. You could put orange zest in here. Any type of extract that you wish to use, you could feel free to do that. So this is coming together. It's almost done. And then just to show you the use of a mixer, I'm going to put the last little, or put it in here and do the last bit of stirring in the mixer. Make sure you get all the butter off. Another really beautiful thing about this recipe is that you cannot overmix it. Because there's not really any liquid, just that little teeny bit of flavoring from the vanilla. There's not enough liquid in there to develop the gluten in the flour, so the structure stays nice and tender and soft. So for a beginning baker or for kids, this is just the ultimate recipe to begin with, because it's almost completely foolproof. I could leave this mixer running for 5 minutes, walk away, come back, and it wouldn't ruin my dough. Whereas if it were a cookie that had eggs or milk or other liquids, that would develop and activate the gluten and the proteins in the flour. And at that point, you start to get more structure development, which you don't want in a cookie. But because we don't have that liquid, we don't have that problem here. So this is already done. I can just lift the mixer up and show you guys the dough. It falls right off. It should not stick to your hands. If you wanted to add something to this, like pistachios, actually, I think I will. I'll just throw in these pistachios. I have a regular batch already, and I'll just stir these in until they're incorporated. Now, keep in mind, pistachios or other nuts are expensive. So if I were doing this and or having my class do a modified recipe, they would need to think about cost. So this is where the math could really come in, or the economics, marketing, and how you would approach, as I said before, the selling of your product. So a lot of different approaches to what you can do with this. And then when it's done and all mixed, super simple, it looks just like that. And you can see that the bowl comes out clean. There's no stickiness to it or anything like that. So if you find it to be too crumbly, maybe you made a modification in the measurement or a mistake in the measurement, a little bit of water, a couple of drops, till it comes together and forms a nice dough like this. But it should not be too sticky, nor should it be too crumbly. It should roll, exactly like Play-Doh or clay, anything that has that texture to it. And you should be able to roll it out like a log, sort of here like this. And that's the goal, that's the technique here. Now these can be scooped and utilized in different shapes, but what I'd recommend for student activities is to do the log, which can then just be simply put on a pan and into the refrigerator, and it will set up and harden. Or what I tend to do is use parchment paper or wax paper you might have at home. Just take that and simply roll it onto here. And that'll keep the moisture from the dough if you're storing it in the refrigerator or even the freezer for a long period of time. So that's all there is to that. There's your dough. The dough is done. It just needs to rest and set up, because you can see how soft it is. So I simply put it on a pan, and then I put it in the refrigerator. So in production, we label our cookies, and we make dozens of logs at a time. We just write pistachio shortbread across the top, put it in the freezer, and then we have the different flavors that we pull out on a daily basis to bake our fresh cookies. So a really good technique for you guys to think about using. And then I have one here that's already done. This is just the plain one that I mixed earlier. And you can tell it's a little bit hard. I put it in the freezer because it's a Sunday and I'm in a hurry. So I wanted to make sure that I got it chilled as quickly as possible. But you can see it will hold its shape now. It will do the same at refrigerated temperature. So this is not frozen. Currently, it is set at about the temperature of a refrigerator. So it'll be like a stick of butter, where it'll be hard enough to where we can cut it and get the cookie shapes that we want. So then the last thing is just for the students to then be able to cut them. I'll just go in half again, half again. And I shoot for about a 1/4 inch thickness in each of the cookies. You don't want to go too thick. If you get to about 1/2 inch, it can get a little bit too thick and remain a little bit doughy on the inside. So simply cutting the logs across like that works great. And you can see that'll still hold its shape. It will get soft again if it stays out. So you want to keep it refrigerated or keep it chilled. And then you just need a pan. Simply lay them out. They're already cut all the way through, but they'll still stick a little bit. That's okay. We just lay them out And there's really almost no spread with this cookie. So you don't have to worry about putting them too close together, that they'll spread and become one big sheet cookie. That's another great advantage to this recipe, especially for people starting out. So you could get a little creative in the decorations and the things that you might do with this cookie once it's baked. So here, it's ready to go into the oven. I bake them at 350 and 8 to, or it depends on the oven, between 8 and about 18 minutes. So you'll just have to kind of figure out what works best for your oven at home. Here I have a little toaster oven because we're in the cafeteria and that's the setup for it. So I'll just set that here and pull out a sample of some that I baked a few minutes ago. And here we can see that they've browned up. So when we move to the science side of things, we can talk about caramelization, you know, the protein gelatinized. So we've got structure. It's now baked. Now there's no egg in here. So we don't have as much coagulation as you might have in a regular cookie that has eggs in it. But we do have enough going on the science side that we could create a lesson around science. We could even take this formula and add a half a tablespoon or a couple teaspoons of baking powder and then do a comparison. What impact does that have on the outcome of the cookie? Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? But you would have that science side of things coming into it. So that's sort of the main concept here. I just wanted to get across to everybody, making sure that, you know, we could try to come up with ways that we can do something that's fun, that tastes good, that's interesting, hopefully, to our student audience, depending on who they are, and then create those sort of modifications and or learning outcomes that are specific to the courses that we're teaching, right? So as I said before, if you have questions, you can certainly email me, danswift@hawaii.edu over here at Windward Community College. I'm really excited about the opportunity to get some feedback from you guys, and I thank you for the chance to share this idea with you. I hope it's useful. I hope everybody's enjoying themselves, staying safe, and praying for happy and healthy return to the classroom in 2021. So until then, have a wonderful day, enjoy the holidays, and we'll look forward to seeing you in cyberspace. Aloha.